Today, you'll learn English with the news. We'll read a news article together on the new peace plan that was created to hopefully end the conflict in the Middle East. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
Our headline, first round of US-Iran talks ends with encouraging progress, mediators say. Let's talk about the word talks. And notice it ends in an S here. And then we have our verb ends. Interesting to note that here, although talk, I am talking, talk is of course a verb. And you're probably familiar with it as a verb. In a business context, in a political context, we often use talk as a noun to mean meetings. So meetings, talks, it's in that same category, which is why it has an S on it, because it's meetings, plural, talks, plural. But then if this is a noun and it has an S, then why does this verb end have an S on it? Because the entire subject of the sentence is first round of US-Iran talks. The subject is actually not talks, it's first round, which is viewing all of this as one thing. First round. Now, if it's the first round, round represents occasion. So it sounds like there's going to be another round of talks, another time when US, Iran, and all the other stakeholders involved meet to talk. So all of this is singular. It ends, and that's why our verb end is in an S. It ends with encouraging progress. So encouraging functions as an adjective. It means positive progress. Mediators say. I added the article the because grammatically with an ordinal number, first is an ordinal number, you need the first, the second, the third time I watched a JForrest English video. I really liked it. So it's very common to leave out articles in headlines of newspaper articles. Don't worry about taking these notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. Now let's continue and learn about this issue. In a joint statement early on Monday. So a statement, written or spoken words. Joint means that two or more people are doing it together. In a joint statement early on Monday, Qatar and Pakistan, the mediating countries. So the mediating countries, it means Qatar and Pakistan are mediating. So mediating, this comes from the word mediator. And this is someone who is supposed to be an impartial party who acts as the neutral person. So who conducts the negotiations in a neutral way. And that's why it says mediators say, the mediators being Qatar and Pakistan in this occasion. Qatar and Pakistan, the mediating countries, said that the parties, so now the parties, because Qatar and Pakistan said this, the parties represent the people negotiating. So US and Iran. That the parties had agreed to a roadmap towards reaching a final deal within 60 days. So notice, had agreed, this is the past perfect. We use the past perfect when you want to show a timeline of events, and it's important to know that one action, the action in the past perfect, is in the past and earlier than another past action. So this is earlier in the past and this is later in the past. This would be the past simple, but they're both in the past. The past perfect is the earlier past action. A roadmap, so roadmap is a noun. You can just think of map. Of course, what does a map do? Tells you how to get from one point to another. So we use the noun roadmap to represent a plan to achieve a specific goal. So you might have a roadmap to improve your vocabulary within 60 days or whatever the time reference. Within means no later than. So between now, 60 days, at some point, but not 61 days or 65 days because it's within. So it's very common to use within to give someone a deadline when you are okay with receiving it earlier, but there has to be the latest possible time. So you could say to a colleague or a coworker, or even to your spouse, let's book the vacation within 5 days. Or this report is due within 5 days. They also agreed, so they being the parties, Iran and the US, they also agreed to establish a de-escalation. So escalation, this comes from the verb escalate. So if you have a customer complaint and you're talking to the store representative and you escalate that issue, it means you now want to talk to a manager. You're not happy with the initial resolution, the way that the customer service representative was trying to solve that, and you want to escalate the issue. So that's the verb to escalate. So escalation, that's the noun form, which views it simply as a thing. The fact that the issue has become more intense. But notice, important, we have this prefix, de-escalation. So it means the issue is at an intense level, and now you want to bring it down to a less intense level. So escalation, de-escalation. So they also agreed to establish a de-escalation working group. A working group, this is very common in business and politics. It's a group of people who have been assigned to a specific task. And in this case, the task is to mediate or to try to de-escalate the conflict. So a de-escalation working group, that includes Lebanon. So Lebanon is part of the working group to address the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah there. So there being, what does there represent? Lebanon. There represents a place. So you have to look to context to understand the meaning. So there, that would be Lebanon.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
A communication channel was also established to prevent incidents and misunderstandings, and to ensure the safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, the mediators said, calling the progress encouraging. So here they have the word encouraging because this specific word came out of the mouths of the mediators. So it's a direct quote, whereas the other information could have been changed slightly. We also have incidents and misunderstandings to show you these aren't the word choices from the author of the article. These are the words that came out of the mouths of the mediators, or maybe in a written statement from the mediators. So an incident, this is an unintended event with a negative consequence. And a misunderstanding, well, this is when you can hear information, but your interpretation of it is different from someone else's. So this, yes, can happen to non-native speakers because of an English language barrier or a language barrier, but it can also happen between native speaker and native speaker. So you could have a misunderstanding when you're discussing plans with a friend and you thought you were going to meet at the restaurant, but then your friend's waiting for you at the movie theater. And then you can say, oh, sorry, I misunderstood. I misunderstood. So that would be the verb form. Here, an incident, this is a noun in the plural form, and a misunderstanding, this is a noun as well in the plural form. Now you can use misunderstand as the verb, to misunderstand. This does not have a verb form. Let me also explain a communication channel. So a communication channel is an official way to communicate. This wouldn't be used in an everyday context, but could be used in a business context or a political context as well, of course. So it might be a dedicated phone line or a dedicated phone number. That could be the communication channel. Or maybe it is an agreement to meet at a specific time every week at a specific location. That would also be a communication channel. It could be a representative from each party agreeing to do that rather than the leaders doing that. So the method of communication could be completely different. It's just the fact that there's an official, agreed upon way to communicate with one another. Let's keep reading. The US also agreed to lift a military blockade. So a blockade, this is where there's something to prevent passage. So in this case, it has to do with ships. So it could be a physical blockade. It could also just be that there are air patrols, and if someone tries to pass, well, then the air patrols prevent them. So it could be physical. It could be a non-physical way as well. So if you lift a military blockade, it means you remove it. We use the verb lift a lot in a political context. You lift sanctions, you lift a blockade, you could even lift a rule or a policy. It could be used in a business context. And it could be used in an everyday context. A parent might lift a curfew that they had for their child. A curfew would be, you must be home at this specific time. But then maybe the child, as a child grows older, the parent decides to lift that curfew. So it absolutely can be used, but it's with some sort of preventative measure or even punitive measure. Punitive comes from the word punishment. So a preventative or punitive measure. And to remove it is the verb lift. Let's read this again. The US also agreed to lift a military blockade on ships going to and from Iranian ports. The safe passage of commercial vessels. So a vessel is any type of vehicle that is on the water. So ships, boats, large and small, you would refer to all of them as vessels. But here they're limiting them to commercial. So ones that operate for business purposes, not just people on a boat enjoying an afternoon cruise on the water or ones just fishing for fun. So the safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is critical to bringing down global oil prices. So without this, the safe passage of commercial vessels, you will not have this, bringing down global oil prices. And notice, is critical to doing something. So that's why our verb is in the ing. So this preposition to belongs to the phrase to be critical to. And then because to functions as a preposition, your next verb is in the ing form. And bringing down is the phrasal verb of reduce. So you can say is critical to reducing global oil prices. And the word critical means of greatest importance. So maybe you would say learning English. So this is doing something, a gerund expression. Learning English is critical. So this as a subject is singular. It is. So to be critical To is our preposition, and then we need a gerund. Learning English is critical to getting a promotion. The most important thing. Ooh, would you agree with that? Let's keep reading. Since the war began on February 28th, surging oil prices have hurt the U.S. economy and taken a toll on Trump's approval ratings amid consumer worries about higher gasoline costs. Okay, let's take a look at surging oil prices. This is the subject. It's plural because we have prices, so they have hurt. They have hurt. Now, since the war began, so it started in the past and it continues until now, which is why it's in the present perfect. Have hurt the US economy and have taken a toll. When you use and, you don't have to repeat the auxiliary verb if it is the same. So you could absolutely say and have taken a toll, but you don't have to because this one have functions for both. Just like the one subject also functions for both because it's surging. So surging means increasing at a rapid pace. Surging oil prices have hurt the US economy. Surging oil prices have taken a toll. So because all of this is the same, you don't have to repeat it. But of course, we have a different verb. So we have to state the verb. And taken a toll on Trump's approval ratings. If something takes a toll on something, so here, the something, remember, is surging oil prices. Have taken a toll. You have to conjugate this with the subject and the time reference, and now on something. So something takes a toll. That's the expression that you have to conjugate on something else. It means it negatively impacts. So you might say, my lack of sleep has taken a toll on my productivity, or my poor eating habits have taken a toll on my health. So something negatively impacts something. Something takes a toll on something. Or maybe my lack of studying consistently has taken a toll on my English results. Maybe. Let's read this again. Since the war began on February 28th, surging oil prices have hurt the U.S. economy and taken a toll on Trump's approval ratings amid. So amid means that as these things are going on. So amid consumer worries about higher gasoline prices. So this is consumers are worried. Consumers are worried. Negative impact on Trump's approval rating. So that would be amid. Amid consumer worries about higher gasoline costs. It's not common for gasoline to be said as gasoline. It's standard to say gas in American English, even in more formal contexts. Let's keep reading. Speaking before the talks at the Swiss resort of Bergenstock, U.S. lead negotiator Vice President J.D. Vance said Trump had asked negotiators to turn over a new leaf. Okay, so we have this in quotation marks. So this came out of J.D. Vance's mouth. And he said this before the talks at the Swiss resort. So before, remember, the talks represent the meeting. So before the official meeting took place, he said this. And he's the lead negotiator. Said Trump had asked negotiators. So negotiators, these are the people negotiating. Just like I said, mediators are the people mediating. The idiom means to behave differently, but think of it in the sense of leaving the past behind. So behave differently as if you're starting new, you're starting fresh, because when you turn over a new leaf, you have a fresh leaf, one that you've never seen before. That's the image you can have. So you want to approach it from fresh eyes, a fresh perspective, forgetting the conflict and issues you had in the past. So we use this a lot in our personal lives. Of course, you can use it in business, politics, but we also use this in our personal lives when we want to change our behavior. So you might say, after years of overspending, spending too much, after years of overspending, he's turning over a new leaf and saving money. So he's going to forget who he was when he just constantly spent his money, and he's going to behave differently, as if he's a different person, as if he's a person who is responsible with money. So he's turning over a new leaf and saving money. So he being J.D. Vance, he added that if Iran's leadership was willing to give up being a driver of regional instability. So this part is in quotation marks, which means this is a direct quote. So a driver means someone who drives. Now, I'm not talking about a car, because a driver of something in this context means the reason why it exists. So in this case, the something is regional instability. Instability is bad. Chaos, a lack of stability. So instability. Now, it's saying that Iran is the reason why there is instability. So if he's willing to give up, if he's willing to not be the reason for instability, so if he's willing to turn over a new leaf, for example, he added that if Iran's leadership was willing to give up being a driver of regional instability, then its nuclear weapons ambitions for the longer term. Okay, so give up being a driver of regional instability and also give up its nuclear weapons ambitions for the longer term. So two things that the US is asking Iran to give up, to stop doing or stop being involved in. Then the US is willing to fundamentally transform our relationship with that country. And of course, that country being Iran. So fundamentally means to transform every aspect of our relationship. So it's a very strong word. Let's keep reading. The deal also includes a $30 billion plan. So notice 30 billion, BN is billion, dollar. There's no S here because this comes before the noun, so it functions as an adjective. It's a plan. What type of plan? A $30 billion plan. So because it comes before the noun, it's an adjective, and adjectives don't have plural forms. So a $30 billion plan. You still say you vocalize this as the word dollar last. $30 billion plan for Iran's reconstruction. So this specific word came out of J.D. Vance's or Trump's mouth, but the rest of the words, maybe he didn't say plan, maybe he said roadmap, or maybe there were subtle changes to the word choice. So reconstruction is, well, you have the word construction, and then means you're doing it again. So because of a lot of damage to buildings or infrastructure, so reconstruction, they have to build those things again. Iran's reconstruction and the U.S. terminating, so this is the deal also includes the U.S. terminating, ending all types of sanctions on it. So all types of sanctions, again, these specific words came from the U.S. government's mouth. I'm not sure if it was Donald Trump or J.D. Vance, to be honest. All types of sanctions on it, on Iran, Iran being the it. And remember, we learned before that with sanctions, you could theoretically use the word lift and the US lifting, because if you lift a sanction, it means you end a sanction, and terminating is just a more formal way of saying end. So they mean the same thing, it's just different words. And that's why I said these specific words came out of the US government's mouth, but maybe this word didn't, because there's so many different ways you can express this and the meaning is the same. Ending, lifting, terminating, all types of sanctions on it. Let's keep reading. But the issue of Iran's nuclear program is still to be negotiated. So to be negotiated, this is in the future. So it means they have not negotiated it yet. Is still to be negotiated. So you might use this in an everyday context and say, yeah, we're going on vacation, but the location is still to be determined or to be decided. Have you seen TBD? That means to be determined. This is very commonly used in a business context. However, we also use it in an everyday context. It is more commonly used in text messages or written English emails, but you can say verbally TBD, especially in a business context. It might sound a little businessy if you use it in your personal life, but you absolutely can. So in a personal context, our weekend plans are TBD. You could say that. You might send it as a quick text message, or maybe if someone texts you, where are you going on vacation? And you don't have a lot of time. You just want to reply back very quickly. You could just say TBD and just write those 3 letters, TBD, to be determined. So it's very commonly used. And it comes from this. To be negotiated, to be determined. Determining our weekend plans is a future event. It has not been done yet. Iran has insisted its nuclear program is peaceful. So has insisted. So if you insist something, it means you say something with a lot of conviction. And maybe you even say it again and again, or you say it, conviction means very strongly. So Iran has insisted its nuclear program is peaceful. It's in the present perfect because Iran has said this in the past, and then it still applies today. And the result is that when Iran is negotiating with the US, they're going to be thinking about this because the present perfect is used with the past action with the result in the present. So Iran is going to be negotiating with the US from the perspective that their nuclear program is peaceful. And that's the end of the article. So now I'll read the article from start to finish and you can focus on my pronunciation. First round of US-Iran talks ends with encouraging progress. Mediators say. In a joint statement early on Monday, Qatar and Pakistan, the mediating countries, said that the parties had agreed to a roadmap towards reaching a final deal within 60 days. They also agreed to establish a de-escalation working group that includes Lebanon to address the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah there. A communication channel was also established to prevent incidents and misunderstandings and to ensure the safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, the mediators said, calling the progress encouraging. The U.S. also agreed to lift a military blockade on ships going to and from Iranian ports. The safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is critical to bringing down global oil prices. Since the war began on February 28th, surging oil prices have hurt the U.S. economy and taken a toll on Trump's approval ratings amid consumer worries about higher gasoline costs. Speaking before the talks at the Swiss resort of Bergenstock, U.S. lead negotiator Vice President J.D. Vance said Trump had asked negotiators to turn over a new leaf. He added that if Iran's leadership was willing to give up being a driver of regional instability and its nuclear weapons ambitions for the longer term, then the U.S. is willing to fundamentally transform our relationship with that country. The deal also includes a $30 billion plan for Iran's reconstruction and the U.S. terminating all types of sanctions on it. But the issue of Iran's nuclear program is still to be negotiated. Iran has insisted its nuclear program is peaceful.
Do you want to keep learning English with the news? If you do, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.